having 21 letters in your alphabet?
Can you not decide if the writing is going from left to right, up or down? Are you tired of not having any vowels in your words?
Are you tired of your dogs not being able to understand you?
It may seem depressing, but our Old Latin language was quite, well, getting old.
Really? Tell me about it.
Well, you see, what we call the Old Latin language was called Aric Latin, founded by a German archaeologist in 1880.
That is old.
And it was created sometime before the 7th to 5th century BC.
Ew, so old it stinks.
It may be old, but that's when it was created.
Well, what about the new version?
We'll get to that later. Right now is my time to shine. It's considered the dominant prestige variety. Inscriptions were made from Old Latin. Fun fact, Rome only made 2 to 3 inscriptions that we know of or have found. They date back to around mid-50 BC. Old Latin inscriptions are still important till this day. Old Latin has made an advancement of contemporary documents and also provides essential evidence for changes in orthographic and phonological language of today. That basically means how it's different from our language and how it's built up to the languages that we speak today.
You said today?
Not now!
Fine, I'll just go back to my hole in the ground.
Anyways, even the laws of the 12 tables were written down in Old Latin. If you couldn't tell, Old Latin was a primary language they spoke. Old Latin has been found in all throughout Delos, Italy, and even Spain. Old Latin was considered rough and immature, which is true, but they just don't see how awesome the history is behind it like I do. Dramatic works of Latin literature based on Greek models were first composed by Livius and Arrhenius. Old Latin was then introduced to the Homeric dialectic hexameter.
What in the world does that even mean?
Well, I'll tell you if you just shut up. It means the basic unit is dialectal, which one syllable followed by 2 short syllables. This is what was introduced by Ennius in the early 2nd century. After a long poem called the Annals, unfortunately, we were only able to find 600 pages with citations of the poem. Latin literature begins with Cato.
Oh, so old and boring.
You'll get your chance, I promise.
In like 50 years.
Quiet! Anyway, Cato made many speeches, but we could only find citations of his TED Talks, unfortunately.
That is so boring. I can't wait till it's my turn.
Be quiet.
The time will be soon, my love. Soon.
Any whizzle. But there was an Old Latin first originally spoken. Well, Old Latin first appeared at Penteline Hill, and Rome's founders often spoke it. We do not know what the Roman founders spoke previous to Old Latin, but people have their theories that it could be Oscan or Umbrian.
I hate to ask, but what is Austrian and Umbrian?
Their language is born in southern Italy. That's all you really need to know.
Oh, okay.
When people stopped using Old Latin was around, actually, 2005.
Wow, I thought that would have been ended maybe 78 BC.
Yeah, I know. Even I wasn't even expecting that.
Okay, enough of the old. It's time for the new. But the old is so cool. No. Okay, now that she's out of the way, let me tell you about the new and improved Latin language.
Shut up.
Anyways, are you tired of only having 21 excruciating letters in your alphabet?
Sure.
Well, don't worry about it anymore, because unlike other languages, Latin was constantly changing new literary works and developing new vocabulary. In fact, here's what a modern-day Latin alphabet looks like.
Why does it look so familiar?
Well, if you're wondering why it looks so familiar, it's because it's our alphabet as well. You see, the Roman alphabet inspired the language of English, and therefore English, Spanish, and German all use the direct alphabet of New Latin. Today, the modern Latin alphabet is used to write hundreds of different languages. Each language has a different set of letters, and they are pronounced in different ways. Some languages use the standard 26 letters, while some use more and others use less.
Whoa, that's why it looks like my ABCs.
Sadly, the Latin language isn't really spoken today, but it has served as the lingua franca of the Western world for over 1,000 years.
Lingo what? Fancy.
Lingua franca simply means that it is a common language spread throughout the world.
Oh. I see.
Most modern in Western Indo-European languages have directly or indirectly borrowed words from Latin, which still has limited use in academia, medicine, science, and law. In fact, here's an example of words that you might hear in an everyday conversation derived from Latin.
Agenda, list of things to be done. Naive, lack of experience. Obvious, for something to be clear.
Perturb, to make one anxious and unsettled. Taunt, to provoke someone or something. Here's a list of words that are still derived from Latin, but may have been unheard from. Convivialist, excessively fond of drinking alcohol. Incommunicado, not in communication with others. Sacrosanct, very important and holy. And what is most interesting is if you look close enough at your $1 bill, you'll see a Latin phrase. The Latin phrase says, anut copits. It means he approves of. Novus Ordo Seclumar, which is also on the dollar bill, means a new order of ages.
Ooh, I never noticed that on my dollar bill before. I've always been too busy spending it to even notice.
Yeah. Anyways, on a more religious note, the Catholic Church often used Latin as its primary language until the Second Vatican Council from 1962 to 1965, after which it was largely replaced by the local spoken languages of the parishioners.
Oh no!
Don't worry though, because the Church Latin is still used in documents of the Roman Latin Church. Additionally, Latin and later Romance languages, mainly French and English and Italian, have influenced the English language, supplying 60% of vocabulary.
Oh, phew! I thought they got rid of it forever.
Latin really impacted us today. Without it, we wouldn't see that alphabet hanging in our teachers' rooms, and we'd probably have trouble speaking.
I already have trouble speaking.
We all do, Malia. We all do.
Latin truly affected our world today. The words we used to never be able to understand suddenly became easier.
And it's all thanks to the good old Latin.
You said old?
Yeah.
Thank God!
Well, I've come to realize that old Latin language was equally as important as new Latin.
Well, I realize now that the new Latin is cool as well, not just as cool as the old.
Well, we hope you enjoyed learning about the new Latin language.
Bye-bye-bye!